Good morning. 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 Good morning, Sassy62481 at AOL.com. I'll explain that here later on in the show. Good morning to you or wherever this is going to find you. It's just before 8 a.m. on Monday, April 6th in my household at the This Morning Satellite office in Anderson Township. But wherever this is going to find you, whether it's today or in the future, I'm so happy you're here. What's your name and what neighborhood are you listening in? Comment below or send me a DM. I always like to know where you are, and I usually give shout outs at least once or twice a week, depending on where we get new listeners from. And every day we get someone new. So thank you so much. This is a daily companion audio show. Not quite a podcast, not quite a radio show. It's right up the middle. It's a new category I've created. If you want company right around 8 a.m. when you wake up every day, to get ready for work or walk the dog, or maybe you listen to this at some point in the afternoon. If you want company, you press play. It's rooted in Cincinnati, but made for wherever you are. Okay. We're going to talk about exciting news for those that have a Gmail account that they absolutely hate and are embarrassed by. We'll debrief the weekend Easter celebrations, if you got into any, what I typically do on Easter, and the latest on the candy heist, which is at like an all-time high right now. And then just some quick things to note throughout the next day or so. But first and foremost, before we get any further into that, let's check in on you. What's going on in your world? What's happening in your life? Things that are top of mind, top of spirit, top of soul. What are you writing about? What are you daydreaming about? What are you thinking about when you're driving? Where are you? Where are you at mentally? What's concerning you? What's exciting you? For those that have been following this show for the last 3 months, it launched on January 1st of this year. I am in, not quite, but I have a little less than 2 weeks left on my non-compete and severance. And so that's top of mind for me. I just booked a trip home to Massachusetts to see some family and friends in a couple of weeks. And the cost of the plane ticket, that was top of mind for me. My God. Gas and travel and fuel and tickets. Why isn't the United States like Europe? I mean, I know Spirit Airways is kind of like the Ryanair of Europe, but for me to fly less than 2 hours to Boston from Cincinnati is sometimes $800 or $900. That just seems crazy. But it's a little bit too far for me to drive. I can't really do 14 hours. And I don't really want to put that many miles on my car. I don't know. If you have a suggestion, I am open to them. Please feel free to message me. But those are some of the things that are top of mind for me. I, too, am sitting here in Cincinnati freezing this morning. It was in the 30s when I woke up. But the last couple of days, we had a Friday and Saturday were like 70s and 80s. I went on a date this weekend. My boyfriend, which I loved. I loved one of my favorite qualities about him is his emotional availability. That's like the number one thing. I mean, he may be a construction worker with ADHD who leaves his tools everywhere, and the Zins end up anywhere but the trash. But he is always emotionally available, and I do really appreciate that. He said, I know you've been putting in a lot of effort lately into this relationship, and I've been slacking a little, so I'm going to plan a little date for us on Saturday. I know I haven't bought you enough flowers in this lifetime. So I came home to what was probably the biggest bouquet of flowers from Kroger, and he had gotten me a plant because he knows how much I love them, and it's a hanging one. Hanging ones are cool. You can put them anywhere. And so we went to the movies. We saw Project Hail Mary. Guys, Project Hail Mary, Ryan Gosling, it's got to be a contender for movie of the year. I loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it. Oh my God. So good. Easy, friendly, scientific. Maybe you take a little adult candy, the scenery on it becomes a lot bigger, bolder, brighter if you're picking up what I'm putting down. but the story itself, it was so good. I loved that movie. Project Hail Mary, if you get a chance to go see it. Other things in the box office that are still on my to-do list are Hoppers, which is a Pixar movie, and then the Super Mario Galaxy World movie, etc. I don't know what it's called, just came out as well. So those are all in the box office, things to look out for. Easter weekend, I think, is a big one for the movies. What else happened? Yeah, it was Easter weekend. Oh my God, wait, no, I have to tell you. Has this ever happened to you? We were at the Anderson Town Center AMC, and halfway through the movie, if not a little bit more, the power goes out. And so the screen shuts off and all the lights come on to a full theater of people. And it was out. It must have been storming really bad on Saturday night. I didn't know. You can't really hear it when you're in the movie theater. But it was out for at least 20 minutes. I posted on TikTok if you want to see at the Tiff 2F's Potter like the wizard. And we all sat there collectively without really much of a peep for 20 minutes. I was like, okay, way to go, society. Way to keep it normal. Way to keep it chill. And then the movie started right back up from where they left off. I was wondering if I was going to see, you know how you fast forward on Netflix? I was wondering if I was going to see like a frame by frame fast forward for them to get to where we are. But no, they just kind of picked it up right where we left off, shut the lights off, and there we go. Back to our snacks. So that I had never had that happen to me before. That was interesting. Easter weekend, always a big holiday in the neighborhood I live in of Mount Adams, you know, with Good Friday, people walking the steps of Immaculata. It was the first time I'd ever gone to a Good Friday service. And I actually have, as of recent, fallen down a rabbit hole of religion. I was very confused on how Judaism and Christianity played in the same sandbox together, especially around Easter. And I won't, take up too much of your time explaining it, but I found something interesting this weekend that was new to me. I didn't realize that the Last Supper with Jesus on Holy Thursday is technically a Passover meal, which is a holiday that is celebrated by Jewish people. Passover represents death passing over them when they were freed from the Egyptians years and years and years and years and years ago. And something else I've learned, that Jesus is actually a historical figure. No matter if you believe in him theology-wise, he is tied to Roman history. That's why things like BCE and AD, when you talk about history, exist, because BC is before Christ, AD is after death. Interesting, right? So I kind of fell down a little ChatGPT rabbit hole. We should do a whole thing. Comment below on whatever platform you're listening on. What ChatGPT rabbit hole have you fallen down recently? Because after Friday Mass, I was very curious on how they all played in the same sandbox. Outside of that and the date this weekend, I usually do holidays with friends. In fact, if you're catching up on old episodes, Friday I talked about how to do solo holidays. Even if you are solo, not single, meaning you might be in a long distance relationship somewhere, but you still have to go out there and live your life. Even if your partner doesn't live in the same city as you, you can't sit in the house and watch TV. Come on. So we talked about, solo-led holidays on Friday's show, and I always carry out the tradition on Easter of going out to dinner with my best friend, Allie Martin, and I love deep conversation with a gal. Of course, I'm sure you can recognize from a show like this, but we're in the, in the midst of just brainstorming, spring, right? Spring is a time where renewed energy and life and new things come your way, so I encourage you to lean into that. I'm technically gaslighting myself at this phase of life here, saying I can either be really scared and upset that my final paycheck without income on the horizon is coming, or I can say, my final paycheck is coming. And new exciting opportunities are just around the corner for me. That's where I don't know. It could be delusional, but that's where I'm going. All right, let's debrief on a few things to note. NASA's Artemis 2 is still up in space. In fact, they're going to be live streaming and broadcasting as they pass around the moon 4 hours, 42 minutes, and 54 seconds from now. And I believe you can watch that live on Netflix. If not, the internet will, of course, have it for you. But they're going to live stream their them passing around the moon today at 2:45 this afternoon. So if you have a chance to take a break, I wonder if this is what it was like back in the 70s when they would maybe put it on TV when the kids were in school. I wonder if they're going to do that today. Interesting. So you can watch that later on this afternoon. This is Eastern Standard Time, so right around 2:45, they'll be broadcasting that live. Second, KitKats are still on the loose. You know, maybe 2 weeks ago, I talked about on the show that 413,000 KitKats, 413,793 KitKats have been stolen. You've heard about this story. It's the silliest thing on the internet. Not a heist for art, not a bank robbery. Someone stole almost 500,000 KitKat bars and no one can find them. And I think it coincides a little bit with Easter. I don't know if that Easter bunny was like, jackpot, the Easter bunny put the KitKat. Did you get KitKats for Easter this year? You might be part of a heist, a scandal. A candy scandal. A candy scandy. Did the Easter bunny steal the KitKats? Was he like, I too am tired of inflation. I too am frustrated with the cost of living. I'm going to steal these KitKats and I'm going to be putting them in the eggs. Forget it. I'm just saying. There's now an 8-digit batch number. If you happen to have a KitKat bar, you lucky dog, if you got one for Easter, look on the back of the KitKat, there's an 8-digit batch number, and you can type that code into like KitKat.com. Nestle Corporate I'll put it in the description below, but Nestle Corporate has like a KitKat tracker on their website, so all you have to do is take the 8-digit code and type it in and see if you're a part of the heist. See if you too are an accomplice to the Easter bunny. I don't know. Give me a break. Give me a break. Breaking off a piece of that KitKat bar. I love it. Those are probably the major topics. I did see that UCLA won the women's NCAA tournament, beating South Carolina 79-51. To win the women's NCAA tournament for the first time since winning the AIAW championship back in 1978. Here's the call if you want to hear it.
And for the first time since 1978, UCLA is back on top of the women's basketball world.
Very exciting, right? And then men's basketball will continue this week as Michigan defeated Arizona and UConn beat Illinois, so they will play later. And the final game of March Madness. All right. Lastly, something that I think is important, for those that have Gmail accounts that absolutely are embarrassed every time they write them down, sassy62481, or it's a crazy girl 68, coolgirl95 at gmail.com. Here's something special for you.
Some big news for Gmail users. For the first time in the platform's 22-year history, account holders will now be able to change their Gmail address name. In the past, if you wanted a new name, you'd have to start over with a brand new account. Important to note here that once that change is made, both your old and new Gmail name will work if someone is trying to reach you.
Isn't that exciting? So there's a setting now in Gmail where you can go and correct your millennial middle school mistakes. If you can still even get a Gmail account with your name in it. I feel like I snagged mine during an era that I'll never see again. I had heard somewhere years and years ago that like a coworker of mine had made a Gmail account for his son when his son was born so that he would have his name. And I'm like, damn. Forget a savings bond. Get a Gmail account for your kid. Do you remember creating your Gmail account? I have, though. I was sitting at the Leicester Public Library once I graduated college, in the midst of creating what was next for me in this career world of mine years and years ago, similar to kind of where I'm going now. Maybe I should just make a new Gmail account. as like something symbolic, or maybe it will bring me luck. But I remember sitting in the public library creating TiffanyRPotter@gmail.com. Go ahead and feel free to email me. And it was a departure from sassy62481@AOL.com. When we were growing up, millennials just made whatever random email addresses that felt right at the time. But now when you go to a networking event, you have to share your email, or even with a customer service line, it's embarrassing to say hotchick79. You know what I'm saying? Working at the radio station, anytime someone won tickets, I would have to get some information from them, including their name, their phone number, and a second form of contact, which was the email address. And girl, what I tell you, some of the email addresses that would come my way. I'm also thinking of my friend Ainsley, who used to work in customer service for a travel agency back when we lived in Brighton a decade ago plus. And she would come home and be like, these people have the most bizarre email addresses. So there's a hot tip for you today. If you're in the midst of growing as an adult, go change your email address. I'll put the link to the Today Show article that I read here on the air, or I played for you on the air, so that you can go back and find out how to do so, okay? All right, that's a good place to leave it. Happy Monday to you. Don't forget, tomorrow is Hard Topic Tuesday. I haven't quite figured out what we're going to talk about, but just a little something to sit with, maybe a little motivation, maybe a little deeper thinking. We'll have something on the horizon for 8 a.m. tomorrow. In the meantime, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for inviting me into your life, into the places that you love. If you enjoyed today's episode, it made you giggle, send it to a friend. Like and subscribe and be a part of the This Morning family as we grow from the ground up, rooted in Cincinnati, but made for wherever you are. Have a wonderful day.